This isn't the Austro-Hungarian Empire's flag. Most people think it is, and even people that know it isn't tend to use it just for the sake of simplicity, but it's not. Because the unfortunate truth is that the Austro-Hungarian Empire didn't have a flag, because it was made up of two sovereign kingdoms that really only operated with a joint foreign policy. In fact, this isn't even a national flag at all. This is a naval ensign. And to make matters even worse, it was only used for civilian ships. People use it because it looks nice and they don't know what else to use when representing the empire. So now you know. You can leave now having learned something, or you can stay and learn a little bit more. Austria-Hungary as a state is a bit weird because it wasn't really a state at all. The Austro-Hungarian Compromise of 1867 split the Austrian Empire into two self-governing halves, an Austrian side and a Hungarian side. For military matters and foreign diplomacy, the empire acted as a bloc, but for anything else they were effectively separate countries. The empire even had two prime ministers and two separate passports and citizenships depending on which half of the empire a person was from. So what flag was used to represent the empire? Well, mostly this one. This is the flag of the Austrian Empire and was used to represent the Austrian half all the way up to the end of the First World War. It was also associated with the Habsburg monarchy and so was generally the government flag. Except that in the empire's foreign legations, the flag of both halves of the empire were flown together, and the embassies used both flags along with the Habsburg royal standard. Meanwhile, Hungary flew its tricolour, occasionally with a coat of arms representing the monarchy, but always a tricolour. Okay, so there are two flags for two halves. Except that there weren't, because Hungary didn't govern all of the Hungarian half of the empire. There was a separate, self-governing region of the Hungarian half called the Kingdom of Croatia-Slavonia. This had a flag of its very own, and as part of the autonomy deal, the Croat-Slavonian flag had to be flown alongside the Hungarian one in all joint affairs, which meant that outside the empire's palaces there were actually three different flags being flown. One for both halves of the empire, and one for an autonomous region within one half. The one area outside the military that a single flag was used was merchant commerce. On this flag there's an Austrian and a Hungarian side, and for foreigners it was probably the most familiar flag when discussing the empire. So with all that in mind, it makes sense that most people just throw up their hands and declare the flag of the merchant ships to be the one that represents the empire. Because frankly, it's pretty much the only flag that was actually used across the whole empire, with both halves represented. Or at least, it should have been used across the whole empire, except that the Hungarians didn't want to play ball. An unclear line in the agreement between the two halves meant that the Hungarians insisted on the Hungarian flag being flown on all ships in the Hungarian half, which meant that the naval ensign was only used on the ships in the Adriatic and Austrian half. This could have caused a real problem because the flag wasn't official and wouldn't be covered under maritime law, but Hungary was landlocked, and so all traffic went along rivers, so they could afford to be petty without too much in the way of consequences. So that's why this flag is generally used even though it's not a real flag. Because there was no real flag, and as long as you don't look too deeply into the details, it fits. Even though it was only used by merchant ships, in one half of the empire. Thanks for watching.